All right, all right, all right. What is going on, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen? We have a really interesting episode here today. In ordinarily, I get a little, I get a little of this intro in here first. I kind of missed the boat on that, but yeah, for those that haven't heard this, don't know who this is. It's Rob Weiner. Yeah.
Well, my baby, she don't left me alone. Said I was a no good and head out on the road. She ain't gonna see me cry, ain't gonna see me shed no tear, mama, no. Why would I cry? I got 6 more waiting on that telephone. That operator praises me, praises my name. He's been working overtime since you went away.
All right. Well, I had to do that. I had to do it. So yeah, this has been an interesting week. A lot of things happening. I just did a call today with it was a group, I guess they're doing some research, and they were talking to some people in the industry, and they were trying to get sort of industry trends of what's going on and how the home service business is changing with technology and all sorts of other things. So very, very interesting. So today, this episode, I have somebody who's created something that is astounding, in my opinion. I'm floored just looking through this catalog of Skillcat, and I am baffled as to how this individual has done this. Baffled. And so I'm really interested to talk to him. Let's bring him up here. So introduce yourself, man.
Awesome. Yeah, great to be here. Ruchir, founder and CEO of Skillcat. We have a training platform for skilled trade workers. We've about 1,500 hours of training on the platform, and we've trained about 300,000 people. So excited to be here. I've heard great things. Heard the comment section is a blast, so pretty excited.
It can be. You know what I notice this is episode 32. I've not maybe 33, 32. What I've noticed is, and I think this is why long form podcasts that have, like a lot of following, like there's a lot of long form podcasters out there who do 2 hours, hour and a half, 3 hours in some cases. Like if you're the Rogans of the world, one thing that I noticed is that the juices don't really start really kicking in until about a half hour in, and then all of a sudden it's, you get this kind of thing, right? Because what are you doing? You're, in most cases, you're not necessarily sitting there and saying oh, I'm going to go log in at this time. Although I have done episodes where I've had 100 people in the chat or whatever. It's not like people sit around and go, yeah, I'm going to log in at this exact time. I think people are just scrolling through, and then they'll see the live, but I think most of the interaction is after the fact. And then you get all these crazy comments. And speaking of comments, I was just talking to Ruchir about, Ruchir, is it like a hard ch, or is it?
Yeah, hard ch. You're good. Ruchir is great. Yeah, you got it.
Hard ch. We're talking about comment sections of these threads in these groups, and how noisy they can get and how entertaining they can get too. But I get a lot of hate, man. I get a lot of hate in there. It's funny. I try to put out these episodes, and I put them in the groups and whatever else. And it's sometimes it's really receptive. Like, oh yeah, I'm interested in this. I did one with, Brent Buckley, who's the #1 sales rep in the whole country in HVAC. And that one was crazy. And half the people were like, what do we care about this sales guy? And then other people were like, whoa, where do I listen? How do I listen to this thing?
Yeah.
So. But Ruchir, so what the heck's wrong with you? How did you create this Skillcat? And then for those that are not in the industry, or they're on the periphery, describe what's the elevator pitch of what Skillcat is.
Yeah, so I'll start with the elevator pitch. So really a training platform for the skilled trades where we try to dramatically bring down the cost of education for folks who want to get into the trades and grow in the trades. So 1,500 hours of accredited training for $10 a month for individuals. So trying to break down barriers so that anyone in the country who actually wants an opportunity to work in HVAC or plumbing or electrical has that opportunity, and cost and convenience are not factors.
So it's $10 a month, but is there a per course fee?
No. So we have some content that's like through partners that, is an extra fee, but the majority of our catalog is $10 a month. All you can eat, you got access to everything.
And you can get fully certified. I can get NATE certified. I can get my EPA. I've noticed that you can get your EPA, right?
Yeah, you can get your EPA. We're directly accredited through the EPA. So, and you can do that as no scheduling required. No, like we have a asynchronous proctor. So take pictures and videos of you as you're going through the exam, and then someone reviews that later. So no scheduling, get right in there. Fully EPA, fully accredited approved by the EPA. So one of a kind.
What other accreditations can you get from Skillcat? What other organizations?
Yeah, so EPA, NATE, we have OSHA training as well. That's for a slight extra fee because that's through a third party, but all through the app. And then we're also ISET accredited for CEU. So we have a trade school where you can go through like an HVAC trade school and get an ISET accredited diploma with CEUs that give you continuing education credits for HVAC, plumbing, electrical, for all of our courses.
Wow.
Yeah, adding in state licensing. There's a bunch of stuff on the horizon. So
so you're gonna add, you think you're gonna add state licensing into this thing?
Yeah, we're adding everything. So I think like anything that folks want and are interested in, we're trying to bring onto the platform. And so it's a process for state licensing, but we're in process.
Wow. That's bonkers.
Yeah.
So where did this idea come from? You're a Stanford guy, right? Like you're just a smart cat.
Wow. I don't know if everyone at Stanford's smart. I don't know. It's definitely like they're good at marketing themselves, I guess, is one way to look at folks at Stanford. But
I think you got to be pretty smart to go there. I don't think they let in, just any old folks in there. But yeah. So where did this come from? Were you in grad school when you came up with this?
Yeah, so my background, I've never myself worked in the trades, although after all the stuff I've done for the last, like my whole career has kind of been around the trades. And so I've always, I've gotten a lot better at a lot of mechanical and electrical skills in the process. But I started in college, I did policy research on the BP oil spill. And so I was a senior at Rice in Houston, and this big oil spill had just happened, and did a lot of research, realized training was one of the biggest things that caused that spill. And so built out a company out of college, building online courses and like virtual simulations to train oil and gas workers. And never did anything in oil and gas before, kind of learned all of this as I went, figured out how to build e-learning and do it at scale. And then, went to Stanford for my MBA, and then came out of that kind of during COVID, and everyone in oil and gas was getting laid off. And so you had all of these incredible people with mechanical skills and electrical skills who were making six-figure salaries going to work at grocery stores because they just didn't know where else they could go, like what other industries actually had a need for their skills. And so, built out Skillcat with that vision in mind. It's like, this has been happening all across the country for the last 50 years. There's been like a 30-40% decline in income for non-college educated men because people have been laid off from all these jobs, and there hasn't been an easy way to reskill or move to another industry, even though there's a massive shortage of good people, good skilled trades folks in HVAC, plumbing, electrical, all of these industries. And so built out this platform is, hey, how do you make that process as easy and accessible as possible? And then, we kind of started with that reskilling mindset, but we've expanded where now we have folks who are, high school, middle school, folks who are already in the trades but want to continue learning and growing. And then, folks all the way later in life who want to reskill and do something new. And so it started with folks, oil and gas, but now you have all sorts of people who are seeing the incredible opportunities in the trades. And so, yeah, that's the story in a nutshell.
So much came to mind when you just said that, because I mean, so okay, so the journey here, you got to grab all these courses. You got to somehow become an accredited institution, right? I mean, how does that all work? Like, you have to become a school, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, well, there are different ways to look at schools, but yeah, so like we get certified through programs like the EPA, so we can offer certifications, or NATE, and so we're accredited, approved through those groups. And then through ISET, they accredit all of our processes. And like we did this very lengthy, like, 1 year process of going through all of our materials and content and how we ensure accuracy to actually be approved. And so, yeah, so like our team, we have a bunch of folks with deep education background. So instructional designers who can teach really well, graphics artists and animators. And then we work together with this huge pool of subject matter experts with years of experience in the trades, who go through and help us identify what to build and what goes in all of our courses. So yeah, it's like that kind of that combination of tech and graphics, animations, and years of trades knowledge.
Have you got any feedback from people who are traditional learners, or they like to be in a classroom setting, and now they're taking these online courses, and what their reaction is to the courses?
Yeah, overall really positive, but I think I mean nothing beats in the trades, nothing beats hands-on, right? So I think like ultimately, like if you can actually afford, thousands of dollars and 1 or 2 years of your life to go to a trade school, that's incredible, right? And you should definitely do that. What we've just tried to create is another pathway for folks who don't have that access, right? Maybe you have kids, maybe you don't have the money or the time, you got to work full time. This is another way for you to get certified and get trained up to actually go get an apprenticeship or get a job in the trades where you can continue using Skillcat on the side. So, yeah, I mean, I there's lots of really great schools out there and a lot of really great programs. We're just another option for folks who want easier access and an easier way to get into the industry or grow in the industry.
How many courses do you actually have in total at Skillcat?
So roughly 1,500 hours of training. Every course is kind of different length.
1,500 hours.
Yeah. So about
Yeah.
500 hours of that is like in-house, like stuff we built out. And then we partnered with a couple groups like HVACR EDU. They have a massive commercial HVAC catalog. So we put all of that on. And then Nexstar Network, we've taken a lot of their more advanced residential material and put that on as well in our platform. So
the actual Nexstar training, I was a part of Nexstar. So the actual,
oh, cool.
Yeah.
Next Tech Academy. Yeah.
Next Tech Academy is built into Skillcat.
Yeah. So we partnered with them just this year to bring a bunch of their content into the app. And so you can actually go through Next Tech content as well. That's like an additional fee because, we have to be licensed that through Nexstar.
Yeah.
But the $10 a month is 500 hours of content that includes EPA and NATE and a lot of stuff.
So could you become a technician just by taking your classes? Like if you knew nothing, you came out of high school, do you have enough classroom that you could learn the mechanics of an HVAC system and know enough and get certified and actually say, you know what, I know this at least on paper?
Yeah, so you can get EPA 608 certified. You can go through, get your OSHA and get NATE. And then you can go through a bunch of our courses in our trade school with virtual simulations that are kind of gamified simulations where you actually experience what it's like to service and maintain a bunch of different units. So,
yeah, but you can't electrocute yourself.
You can't electrocute yourself. Exactly.
That's remarkable. So you could
yeah.
literally take a class, have a module at the end that says, okay, it's time to change out this contactor, this capacitor, this fan motor. Okay. Does it like give you like, oh, hey, here's what the symptoms are, find out what the problem is? Like, does it give you like sort of like test your knowledge kind of things, like where it's making you go through the motions?
Yeah, for some of them. So yeah, sometimes the tests are simulation based. A lot of the simulations are kind of guide you through. It's kind of like you have a senior manager, like a supervisor, standing over your shoulder, telling you what to do and guiding you through the process.
Mm,
So yeah.
mm. How long did this take you? Now I want to get to the personal side of things. So you kind of explained what it is. And by the way, I'm going to show. I'll share the screen, and I've got your website open here, and it is absolutely, it's ridiculous the amount of certifications. I mean, you're approved by the Department of Labor, the EPA. I mean, OSHA, NATE. This is incredible.
And we're just getting started. We have a lot. We're just starting, so we're really excited about adding a lot.
From a technical standpoint, so I had somebody on here. His name is Doug Wyatt. He has something called Synergy Learning Systems. But the difference with what he does, I don't know if you know him, but if you don't, you better get acquainted. You should talk to him, because he is just a mastermind in processes, sales and service, customers focus, soft skills, and customer facing skills, paired with what you have here. I mean, the marriage is incredible. You really should. I'll make the introduction for you, because
please do.
I think it's absolutely worth it. So tell me now, what kind of like drugs did you have to do to get through all the? When did you start? When did you start this thing, man? And like, how much sleep did you really get? I mean, I'm just.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 3.5, almost 4 years, right? Jennifer Manzo, I think you mentioned that she introduced us. She was one of our first students, actually. And so we got started. The initial model was, hey, we'll actually offer all of this training for free, and then companies will pay us to hire through the platform. And so we got really popular just because we were a free option for EPA, for all of this training. And then we just realized it was really tough to compete with Indeed. And so eventually we changed our model about a year ago. We're like, hey, we're going to actually charge for this, and but try to keep costs as low as possible. But yeah, it's been, I mean, starting a company is tough. This is actually like my 4th time starting a company. So
Fourth time, bro. You look like you're 28 years old.
33.
Either way, you started 4 companies. Well, how old were you when you started your first company?
In high school. So I built out like a nonprofit. It was like a nonprofit with educational comic books to make like history fun for kids.
Oh wow! So this is a theme for you. You love playing in the education world.
I love education. I don't know. I think I would have been in another life, probably would become a teacher, and at some point, I think that's something I really enjoy and might want to do. But yeah, all my startups have kind of been around that theme of how do you show people how to do things better and teach better.
So I looked up your area code. I'm curious. So I'm not really sure. Is that where are you from? You're from the Northeast?
Yeah, I grew up in Rhode Island. So I grew up in Were you in? I saw on Facebook that you were in Rhode Island. I don't know. Are you from Rhode Island or?
No. I actually had ironically, this is kind of sad too, because most people go to tropical destinations, but hey, we were young and broke, and we actually took it. Actually, we loved it. It was so much fun. But we went to Newport, Rhode Island.
Beautiful.
Newport's beautiful. So you grew up in Rhode Island, the smallest state, by the way, and it's fully wall-to-wall carpeted.
Yeah.
It's wall-to-wall carpet. So you grew up there, Northeastern guy. And so you start building businesses at such a young age. I love it. Okay, so 4th time building a business, and then you got this idea probably 5 years ago, started it 4 years ago. And what was the genesis of it? Like, what were you in class and just like, boom, like this is where we got to be? Oh, you kind of said how you formed it from, it came out of the oil and gas thing, but I'm curious if like, because I don't see a direct parallel between the oil and gas thing. Like, I just don't, I really don't, I don't see usually there's like a trajectory like that. Just looks like it was like one idea and then a totally different idea. And there's like maybe a tiny bit of synergy in between. Yeah.
Well, I think for me, it was, I hadn't actually worked in HVAC or didn't know much about HVAC, but I was running this business in oil and gas, right, with oil and gas software, and I'd gotten to know so many people in that industry, and they were all struggling. And so I started doing research, talked to a couple of them who were switching career. Everyone was leaving the industry at the time. And I was like, where are you going? Like, what other industries are there? And quite a few people said construction, right? And then I started reading about this, and there actually was a big shortage. So like just at the same time oil and gas was laying off, there were all these other industries that were hiring. And so it was pretty systematically. We actually looked at every big kind of trades industry in the US. And I think kind of define trade as anything where you work with your hands, but it requires specialized training, right? Where it's not something that you just, you're a warehouse worker or, in a retail job. You have to actually learn and master a trade. And so we studied telecom. We looked at, solar and wind and manufacturing. And what we kind of realized is one of the biggest needs is in HVAC. It's actually, you make some of the highest salaries, and there's the most opportunity for building more certifications and like helping people standardize their skills better.
So you were looking for a problem. You were looking to see, that's the first rule, right? If you want to have a successful business, you got to find a problem, and then you got to solve the problem.
Yeah. So the problem that I saw was that there are all these people in oil and gas who are really, really good with mechanical skills and electrical skills. They just didn't have any easy way to find a new job, and they were unemployed and working like way under their skill level. And so that was the core problem. I was like, hey, is there on the other side, are there employers, and is there an industry or an area that has the same problem on the employer side? And that's kind of how we thought through, hey, we can actually build this, and there's a huge pool of people who this other industry could use. We just need to find a way to connect them together better.
What was kind of the toughest part of the whole process? What was the biggest thing that you lost sleep over?
So many things. I think one of the hardest decisions for me, so last year was tough for us. So Jennifer. Last year was tough for us. For a while, our model was free training, and then companies would pay us to hire.
Yeah. That's another question I want to ask you, and I didn't mean to jump on you.
No, go for it.
I'm curious. So if you don't mind sharing this, how many subscribers are you guys up to now? So we've trained about 300,000 people. We're not particularly active with our, we don't share our subscriber count, but it's it's in the tens of thousands. Wow. That are actively subscribed. And that's just in the last year. What's just in the last year? How what's the journey been to getting the word out there? What have you done to spread it out there?
I think we were just free. We were free for so long. So we actually, until this month, we never spent a dime on marketing. So it was purely people finding out about us on Google through search engine optimization, and then word of mouth. So people would talk about us. People still talk about us a lot on Reddit. And, I say this a lot, skilled trade folks are not shy about their feedback, right? So when people find something, you mean all the ones that rip me apart for no reason? Exactly, yeah. I'm literally a staple in the HVAC industry. I get ripped apart on these freaking groups. It's unbelievable. I've been on every podcast. I've been in every trade show, and I get ripped to shreds on all of these freaking boards. And I'm like, Jennifer, I don't like that you said we still love you. That means that I'm on the other side, and I don't like that, Jennifer. I don't like that at all. Jennifer said we still love you. Yeah. All right. So go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you. So you haven't done any marketing, and now SEO seems to be working. So for a while Tony says it's because I'm so handsome and we're all jealous. Yes, I think so. I think you're right, Tony. Tony, didn't you say that you're done with the HVAC industry? Isn't that Tony and I worked together years ago. He's an amazing HVAC technician and he's a leader. And then all of a sudden he says, I'm done.
I'm out of the industry. I'm not doing it anymore. Anyway, we'll hear back from him. But and Ruchir, I apologize. I don't want to steal your. You got now the chat's starting to be busy. So, but what?
No, you're good.
Yeah. So you haven't spent any money on marketing, and now it's word of mouth. You got tens of thousands of subscribers. Where was the biggest challenge though? Like where was the failure? Like when did you think to yourself like, oh no, this may actually not work?
No, so last year was really tough, right? So like because we were trying to make this jobs platform work, and it was just really hard. We have people all over the country, but to really be a jobs platform, there's a lot of logistics. People need to there were a lot of challenges, and so last year we did some layoffs. Like I didn't have a salary. Like we were like, hey, are we going to make it? And then we kind of turned around. We're like, hey, we're going to pivot and try this new model where we start charging for the app. And for me personally, that was super, super difficult because I felt like we had made this promise to our users that we were going to be free.
Yeah.
And it's been something we had, from inception, this is our goal. And it was really personally difficult for me to have to convey that. And I thought, maybe everyone's going to abandon us. Would we get attacked by everyone? And luckily it's worked out. And I think one of our core ethos, because we started free, is like, hey, we want to be one of those companies that keeps costs low for our users and tries their hardest to keep costs low. And so it's worked out. It overall worked out, and we were actually able to rehire some of the people we laid off last year. And we're better than we've ever been.
That's really cool. Jennifer says then he listened when we told him to charge. Yes.
Yeah.
There's no value. There's no value if somebody's not paying for it, if it's not charged. I will say that for the amount of money that you're charging, it is like the steal of the entire industry. In fact, I'm blown away when you told me how much money per month it is. I'm literally blown away. You could you could probably charge 10 times that. And
yeah.
Hey, so interestingly enough, and I don't want to, I feel like there's some thing I want to tell you in regards to changing your model or changing your path.
Mm-hmm.
This platform, this podcast that I started, I really just wanted to hear like a lot of stories from inside of people's houses and like the fun stuff and all this other stuff. And the reality is that I realize as I'm having these conversations that in a natural course of progression, like it is morphed, and not that we don't tell amazing stories from inside people's houses, but it went from really a storytelling to now like hearing like the story of how you have built this business, which I think is just as valid and just as amazing. In fact, in some ways it's way more fascinating. And the fact that you almost failed and almost closed up shop and you fired a bunch of people and now you're rehiring and you're getting advice from people inside the industry. And I'll tell you, I have actually had people that are outside the industry that didn't know didn't know what they were doing, whatever it was. And then they would get advice from people who also weren't in the industry. Yeah. And from what Jennifer's told me and other people have told me, you're actually taking a lot of advice from people inside the industry. And I'll tell you this same thing with the roll-up strategies that these different companies have. Like they're not listening and they're doing a lot of talking and they're not doing enough listening. And I commend you for actually listening to some boots on the ground and some smart people that are entrenched in the industry. Not to say that it's going to be the end all be all, but to say that it's probably really important to hear input from people with, boots on the ground. And apparently Jennifer says you even automated the HVACX coalition, which is really cool.
Yeah, no, I think nothing. I mean, you have to listen to your users, right? So like when we first launched our app, I was on Android, our rating was 2 stars, right? So like we had so many issues with the app, people couldn't use it. It was confusing. There were errors in the courses. Like we had a 2-star rating, and it's taken us like 2+ years to get that up, but we're at 5 stars now. Like they round up. We have 2,000 or 4,000 total reviews across the app and Play stores, and we're 5 stars because we listened to our users and like improved and made changes. And so that's how you don't have to spend money on marketing if you can actually make the product good enough over time that people actually tell people about it. So that's what we try to do.
Yeah, word of mouth marketing is going to be the best way to go about it. What was the hardest thing like in the coursework that you had to actually do with your catalog?
So I think, I mean, getting the accreditations was challenging, right? I think there's like a lot of like bureaucratic work, but yeah, coursework. I think you have to get into extreme detail to teach these things well, and then make them simple, right? So anyone can kind of take a lot of information and just throw it out there, and like you see that all the time. You can read a manual and you can just put a bunch of information out there. The hardest part, I think, of what we do is how do you take something complicated and then you make it simple, right?
Mm.
And so like you use graphics and animations and
Oh gosh.
simulations and make something like challenging, like like reading a wiring diagram or understanding voltage. And these don't have to be complex like engineering concepts. You can make them actually really simple. And like that challenge of how do you make something simple using graphics and animations and simulations, that I think has been the hardest thing. But now we've been able to start figuring that out, and so are able to make our content better and better.
So do you have a full-time, like, is all the graphics, is everything done in-house, or do you have to outsource a lot of that stuff, or is it combined?
All in house. Yeah. So we have like almost 10, more than 15 graphics people. We have a whole team of instructional designers who are all engineers, so they have mechanical and electrical experience. So yeah, all in house. We're like, it's hard to outsource. Right? If you want to really keep high quality, it's hard to outsource it.
I can't even imagine what the the roadmap looks like for something like that. It's like from beginning to end, like, okay, we've got to take this course, we've got to put it you simplify, then we got to put a test at the end so that you can get certified. And it blows my mind. Guys that do all these fine-tune like process kind of stuff, like I'm so fascinated by the way that people's, because I'm a very like service and sales and people oriented person. And I think that a lot of times, right, like, I mean, people that put together manuals or stereo instructions or like whatever back in the day did, like VCR, like how to program VCRs. Like I was, it's so funny. I worked at a national wholesaler for like a couple of years as the director of sales. And I remember like, there was like these product managers and they would sit there and like, they were literally like taking manufacturer specifications and putting it into like manuals that like went out with all these different parts. And I'm like,
yeah,
I always get that, and then I just throw it out. So it's like,
yeah,
no. Now I look at it differently. I'm like, hang on here, there might be some very good information, right?
Yeah, but how do you make that easier, right? It's kind of like they're going to be these incredible. Some texts are going to be incredible where they're going to read every single line of a manual. But a lot of folks like don't have the time to do that, or it's like, how do you make it easier, more accessible?
Well, that's everything now. Everything is how do you dumbify and how do you simplify everything? And you know why? And I'd like to hear your input, but I think this is the reason why. Because there's so much coming at you now all the time. Like, it doesn't even matter. You could be taking a class, right? Like, dude, my son is responding to text messages to me while he's in class. I'm like, how are you even doing that? And it's probably because he's got like an earbud in here. The teacher can't hear him. So he's like responding with Siri somehow. Like, and you get this like constant barrage of data and like how many different social media platforms, and then there's like everybody's trying to throw a commercial at your way, and you can't get away from, you just cannot get away from the amount of information that is thrown at a human being today is insane. So I am this way with emails, and I would tell my staff, like, dude, when you send me an email, because of how many emails I get, do me a favor, bullet points, please. Like, please don't write me paragraphs of things, because I'm not going to sit there and read this long dissertation. Like, just make it very simple, please. Right?
Yeah. No, I read an article recently. There's a lot of applicants applying to jobs using ChatGPT to write this like long cover letter. And then you see the hiring managers using ChatGPT to summarize that same cover letter. So it's like, what a mess. Like, it's, I completely agree with you. I think this is one of the downsides of technology, right? Is just like, we've created this world where there's so much constant like stimuli all the time. And people just don't have an attention span anymore. And so, yeah.
Yeah, like I find myself, I read an email that I send out, or something that I'm trying to tell somebody, and I just go and I remove words. I go through and I just remove words. The least amount of words that I can use. I read a book once by Stephen King, and
Mhm.
there's a book he wrote called On Writing.
I've read
And
it. I've read it. Yeah.
oh,
Uh, I
great.
wanted to write a novel a while ago, so it's a great book. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the section
Yeah.
where he goes, a lot of these writers write in this amazing prose and it's beautiful the way that they eloquate, all these things. He's like, I write words as succinct as possible and they hit. And
Yeah.
look how many books that he's written, people have
Yeah.
read. It's insane.
No, and he gets
Um,
a lot of shit from like, literary experts who say, hey, like you're not using great literary prose, but who cares, right? Writing is about people are reading what you write, right? That's the goal. That's the point. So
yeah. Jennifer says, I was just saying to this Ruchir today, the hiring managers only have time for a scam. I do believe that until you get to a point. So me personally, having hired a ton of people, once I get to a certain level of individual that I'm trying to hire, I'm going to look a little bit deeper, and then my interviews are going to go quite a bit deeper as well.
Mhm.
But you're right. I think everything's getting simplified. In case in point, I took a marketing class through this like a business organization for executives, and
Mhm.
one of the things they talked about was how all the logos for these different companies, they went back to like the 80s and the 90s, and you show the logos today, even of those companies, and the fact that Facebook is just an F. They
Yeah,
also
very
talked about
flat. Yeah, simple
that
design.
Burberry did the same thing. They simplified. And the other thing that was interesting was that they talk about the amount of time that people spend on a given website. It's
Mhm.
a fraction of the time that they spent when the internet was just coming out. Case in point, Yahoo, apparently there's people at Yahoo who were actually the founders of the technology that Google uses.
Mhm.
And when you go to Yahoo's site, what do you see? Everything. You see
Yeah.
everything. You've got sports, you've got news, you've got this, you've got that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's on google.com?
No, nothing. Just like I think they have to
Nothing.
fight. It's a fight anytime someone wants to add like an extra word to that site.
Nothing. There's
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah.
There's nothing on Google. So yes, I think that you're right. Simplification is very simple, and I can't even imagine you're younger than me, and I would say that the next generation down, I can't even imagine like the true Gen Zers. I can't even imagine what their attention span is going to be, having literally no life other than a smartphone life, at least in your life. I mean, the vast majority of it was spent without smartphones. I
Yeah.
mean, smartphones and smart
No, yeah,
devices,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
I've heard there's some backlash like for like Gen Z where there's hey, like malls have become really popular with Gen Z. Like so like they're like more in-person spaces, like less time on your phone. Like I
Yeah,
think it's gone so far. Yeah, that yeah.
they yearn for it. In fact, look at concert attendance since in the last 5 years, or actually even
Mhm.
since COVID. Concert attendance and prices for tickets have gone through the roof. And I
Mhm.
remember being in high school and people saying like, "Well, there's not going to be any more. There's not going to be live entertainment. Everybody's going to be in front of a screen." Well, nobody wants to be in front of a screen. Not even Gen
Yeah.
Zers want to be in front of a screen. So I do believe people will yearn for more human interaction.
Yeah.
Ironically, your platform offers a way to indirectly really do that, right? I mean, to get the certification, the training that they need, faster, so that they can hit the road. And that's remarkable. What you've done is remarkable. So what do you think the biggest achievement you've had so far has been with this journey?
I think the most rewarding part of all this is just the number of people we've helped, right? So like for our team, I think what really drives us is just like some of the emails and reviews we get from people who like we've helped them turn their life around
Mm,
just because of offering them, this education at like accessible and easy, right? There's so many
Were they not
people.
able to go to trade school? Like they were in a position where they couldn't afford trade school, but they were like, holy moly, I can actually pay $10 a month and at least I'm not getting in person, but I'm getting all these modules, these classrooms, and I can actually go and get a job. Have you seen that?
Yeah, quite a bit. So we've seen, hundreds, thousands of examples of that where, uh, for whatever reason, yeah, they can't actually go to a trade school, right? So it's like either it's too expensive, it's too far. We actually have a lot of people who are in trade school also going through Skillcat because and there's some really great trade schools out there, but there are also some that are just not very good. And so you get a lot of people at those schools who might go through trade school and then they're going through Skillcat and then they say they learn more on Skillcat. And so just kind of
Wow.
empowering people to learn and grow and get certified, change their lives, right? It's your job means a lot, right? I think you're having a career path is a big part of being being a human and being feeling productive and having an impact on society. So yeah, that's been the most rewarding part for sure.
I have two questions. One, is there going to be some sort of an inception of maybe a online classroom setting where it's not just a module, but you're in class with other people, like Zoom style, if you will?
Yeah, I more than that, I think is we've talked to some folks about having something where you go through Skillcat's full program online, then you might come in person to a facility. Yeah, Jennifer's saying we also have live courses over Zoom for folks to go through. But I think more than a classroom, it's like hey, maybe a hybrid where you go through everything online on Skillcat and you come in for a boot camp for a week or a weekend or a couple of weekends where you go
Mm,
through and just work on units and get a lot of that physical hands-on piece.
mm.
Uh, so I think that's one of the hybrids that we've looked at playing with. And we also through our app for folks who are actually working in the field, we offer a full apprenticeship program where you go through training, but you can also upload pictures, videos, and audio of things you do in the field for your manager to view. And
Mm.
so it's a really great resource for folks to document their journey and log and get credit for
It's a
things you
it's a
do in the
it's a
field as well.
it's a program where you can go through the apprenticeship and like kind of follow through, and your manager sees one side, you see the other side, and then you can coach, and it's all through like Skillcat facilitates that as like the medium.
Exactly. Because otherwise, you have a lot of companies where your techs learn a lot in the field, but there's no way of knowing, right, how much people have learned.
Mm.
And both for the manager and for the technician is how do you know where you are in your career journey and how much you're really growing and learning through on the job training, where everyone learns a tremendous amount on the job in all of these trades, but how do you actually quantify and measure that growth? It's just empowering to know where you stand.
That's actually fantastic. I love that idea. There's a gentleman in the chat here. His name is Dan Baker. He runs Blue Collar Talent Scouts, and they actually place apprentices into trades jobs, commercial, industrial, some residential, all over the country. He wants
Super
us.
cool.
He wants me to connect you guys. I actually think the conversation between you guys would be very, very resourceful because they do have there is a gap between when some of these guys are done with school or some of these guys are coming out and they're recruiting them and the resources that the companies that he represents offers and what you have. There's a gap there. I'll connect you guys when we're off
Yeah,
here.
absolutely. Please do. That sounds like a super cool program.
Leading me to the next question. This has been amazing. I'm fascinated by people who have done things that I first of all, I could not do, but also that this is such a resource to, I'm not getting paid for this. I just want everybody to know, like, there's no sponsorship here. I'm simply interviewing a guy, about something that he's created. And I think what you've created is incredible. And you know what, I think sometimes there's a little bit of like a little disingenuity going on in the podcast world in general. And look, it happens, right? Where, you'll have a sponsor. It is what it is. I mean, I get it. But this is something that I can see, wow, this is very, very cool. I totally get behind this. I mean, the fact that you're offering this, I still can't get over how cheap it is, but regardless, I'm not saying raise your price because obviously it's working. I'm just saying The fact that you can go, I see there's other things here, appliances you've got on here. You've got electric training classes on here. You've got plumbing training classes on here. This is not just HVAC training. So, all right. So leading me to this, right? So what is one experience that you've been, I ask this on every episode. What is one experience that, that you've gone through? Okay. And this might be an interaction with a customer, somebody who's uses your service, maybe along your journey somewhere. Specifically with the building of this business or in the business itself. I'm not talking about your personal life. What's something that is such a profound experience that it lives with you? It shaped you in some sort of way.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I think a collaboration that we're really proud of. So like, I think again, what drives our team the most, right, is seeing an impact we actually make on people's lives. And so I think a collaboration that has really kind of inspired the entire team and especially me is we work with this organization called Entryway, where they work to train people. So they take homeless people off the streets and they give you a place to live at an apartment complex and they get you a job as working at that apartment complex. So, and we work with them as their maintenance training provider. And so there's been hundreds of people who've actually gotten off the streets, gone through Skillcat, and then have a job as a maintenance technician at an apartment complex where they also have a home and a place to stay. And that's really cool because you hear about homelessness all the time, and it's a huge problem.
No one's helping them.
I lived in San Francisco, now I live in New York, and like you hear all of these political perspectives on the homeless, but ultimately nothing beats, this actually just helps them, right? You find a way to help their short-term issue, which is a home, and their long-term issue, which is actually a job and a career that can help them their whole lives. And so I think it's a super cool organization. You should look it up. It's called Entryway. And the fact that we get to be a part of that journey is just really incredible. We're actually helping people tangibly change their lives for the better.
Have you been able to be a part of any of those specific stories? Like, have you heard of anything specific where it was an individual and they came off the streets and their specific story?
So, not with that organization per se. I did today I posted on LinkedIn about the student who reached out to us. He had been in rehab. And so he's kind of had, I think, spent many, many years on all sorts of drugs. And he said he made some of the worst decisions. I said ungodly decisions was the word he used. And spent years in and out of rehab. And he finally has gotten clean. And he's really stressed about going back to his family. He's like in his 50s because he doesn't feel like he can actually take care of them. They're going to judge him. And he downloaded Skillcat and he's getting certified to be an electrician, or at least pre-apprenticeship as an electrician, so he can then get started in an electrical job. And it's given him hope. And so that's pretty amazing. The fact that we can provide that to someone. And for folks like him, he wasn't able to afford even the $10 a month because he's like living with a friend on a friend's couch. He's like really struggling. We gave him the app access for free. And so, I think that's another story. Every week we hear about a lot of people. There's a lot of veterans on the platform. We get a lot of women on the platform. We get a lot of folks from non-traditional backgrounds for the trades, which has been really awesome just to help folks succeed and grow.
Are you in the city? Do you work are you in New York City right now? Or are you?
I'm in New York. Yeah. I live and work in New York City. So
Brooklyn?
Yeah. Manhattan.
You're in Manhattan?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
In Manhattan. Midtown East.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. So busy.
Did you live in New York, or where do you live?
I'm a little confused. I got a Texas hook 'em horns shirt and I got a Yankee hat on. Yeah, no, I'm from Jersey, man. My dad grew up in Brooklyn.
Cool.
I moved to Dallas 5 years ago, and never turned back. I still miss my roots. I do like it up, up in the Northeast. I go back and visit. I go to Yankee Stadium. I go visit friends and whatnot. But man, I'm happy in Texas, man. Let me tell you.
I lived in Houston for 8 years. I went to Rice for undergrad, and then
you went to Rice. Rice is a fantastic school. That's a really good school.
Yeah, I loved Rice. But yeah, let me know if you're ever in New York. I'll show you. I mean, honestly, probably know the city better than me, but we'll get a drink and
I know the city, man. I know the spots.
Yeah,
I know the spots. Go down to McDougal. Go down to go down to Village. Go to a comedy show.
Actually, I did stand up in New York for. Unrelated to the trades or what I'm doing now, but
that's okay. Let's go.
I spent a while doing stand up full time in New York, so I lived on McDougal. So yeah.
Please tell me that the Comedy Cellar is still there.
No, of course, yeah. I was not good enough to perform at the Comedy Cellar, but
not even on like an open mic night or anything like that.
They didn't really have open mics. Like Grizzly Pear, I did a paid show at the Grizzly Pear. It's like, I don't know, like a couple doors down from the Comedy Cellar. But I
used to play on Bleecker I used to play in my band on Bleecker on there was a place over there called oh my gosh. There was right next to Off the Wagon, the Peculiar Pub. I forget what it's called. The Bitter End. I used to play at the Bitter End.
Yeah. I know the Bitter End. That's awesome.
And then it's right next door to Terror Blues. And so, I mean, it's the epicenter of New York music.
Yeah.
About it. Because, well, you can go to the bigger place to get the bigger acts, but you want to be, where the underground bands are. That's where we were. But
you're probably really good. I mean, if you were performing there.
Well, I've heard. Hey, so all right. So what did you do with stand-up? What kind of what do you write about on stand-up comedy?
Well, this was like my summer between my first and second year of business school, and all my friends were getting internships at like finance and whatever, big tech, and I really wanted to be a comedian, and I thought I wanted to do it full time. And so
that's awesome, dude.
I started in San Francisco, and then I just like would go to like 4 or 5 open mics every night. Like we got like a box and performed in Times Square. We just like hustling, like me and like a couple, like I made a bunch of friends through it, and just like hustling every night. And so,
dude, that's amazing. That's amazing. You were like busking. You were like busking with comedy.
Yeah, it's very hard.
But what did you have like a topic that you liked to cover? Like, was there like or like were you just like whatever's contemporaneous?
I think when you start, the stuff that works best is making fun of yourself. So like jokes about me looking like a terrorist, or like jokes about like my parents trying to set me up with girls. Like a bunch of that stuff worked really well. And then like I was like getting into some of the more topical stuff. It's like what stuff like Seinfeld does is like very impressive. It's hard, right? The easiest stuff is talking about yourself and making fun of yourself.
Are you still doing it?
I haven't done it in a while. I want to. Now I'm back in New York. I moved to New York in like February. So like I'm feeling the itch. So
you got to do it. So and let me tell you a little bit of, I'm a little older than you. Let me tell you, I play out, like I play music, and I've been playing music for a million years. And the most unhappy that I ever was when I stopped playing music, and when I stopped focusing on something else aside from, my business, business mindedness, whatever. So I will say, I think that there's a connection between, I live in a neighborhood full of people that are like, sort of like on the edge of like performers. It's really strange. And they all have done really well. And I think that there's a screw loose somehow with performers. And then like we somehow tap into something that other people don't tap into. That's why you have 1,500 hours of training materials on your in your business and your website. I mean, at your training institute, like it's insane. I think there's something there that doesn't quite shut down. I think Jennifer Manzo's like that too, and she's a very musical person. She got, she got the music tats too. And
I didn't. I guess
she's very musical. She's a very good singer. She's posted stuff too where she's she's not really as good as I am, but we're not going to compare because it's not really fair. I mean, anyway. But as we're winding down here, man, I do love that topic though. What do you think? Do you think there's some truth to that? Where there's some kind of screw loose in there that just helps to
Yeah, I mean, you're hustling, right? Like, you're actually trying to make it in the entertainment industry in any way. Like, you have to hustle, right? And you have to get out there. And you have to be vulnerable and like open yourself up to rejection, open yourself up to failure. You have to be okay with those things. I mean, like you have to be very open to that, and that's something you need every single day when you're trying to be successful and grow something and build something. Right? You have to be open to failing, and you have to be okay with failing. And I mean, I like that's just part of the job, right? And so at
Mm.
least that piece really resonates. Like if you actually put yourself out there in the entertainment world, like I think that translates really well to putting yourself out there in any other part of your life.
Did you have a lot of naysayers when you tried to start this business? Like, were there a lot of people that said you're out of your mind?
Oh my god, this is what I think I talk about a lot is like Silicon Valley does not understand the skilled trades, right? Yeah, I pitched to like 200 VCs before we raised money, and I have a Stanford background, like started companies before. Like you would think, oh, it'd be easy for me to raise money, but like no one understood the trades. People are like, oh yeah, I mean like there's a big shortage of software developers. Do you really need more technicians? Like does anybody even want those jobs? Like you make a lot of money. Like there's so many misconceptions about how incredible work is in the trades, how satisfying those jobs are, how much money you make, the shortage. And so I had to educate people. And luckily, we found a really incredible investor eventually. But I mean, so many naysayers, right?
Was
And
the
it's a lot.
was the investor, not to interrupt you, was the investor somebody who viewed it more from the business side or more from the like, hey, this is a really cool idea. I'm kind of passionate about this side because there are different types of investors, right?
Yeah. I think our investors are passionate, but they're primarily was the business side. So like our Mucker Capital was our venture investor, and they led the seed round in like service titan. So they're very familiar with the industry,
Ah,
and so they understand the need for folks
they're
in
building
the
API,
industry.
right? They're building the API right now to between Skillcat and Service Titan. Trust me.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, it was so many naysayers, but like you gotta just push through if you believe in something. And yeah, stand up has definitely helped me with being okay with that level of rejection and just pushing through. Because yeah, I mean, I it's tough in the beginning.
200 investors,
I talked to a lot of people. Yeah, maybe
and they
like
all and they all said
120,
no.
maybe 120.
120 investors,
Yeah,
a-
yeah.
and they all said no. And so how does that
No, slash like, like, oh, we don't really understand it, doesn't make sense, like, like you're too early, which is kind of code for we don't understand it. uh so
but like how, and then was it the 121st guy that said yes, or was it somebody that you had seen earlier who said, yeah, well, I'm coming back around to it now?
for us it was seen earlier. So like, we made progress on the business. Like
Right.
so initially like, I just invested my money, and then we made progress, and then it was like, wow, you're actually doing something cool, like we're in. So
Wow. Were you discouraged?
oh, of course. I mean, I it's hard to not be discouraged with rejection, but I think that resilience, of like pushing through rejection, comes maybe from stand up, from just like starting companies. You get used to seeing failure as just like a not yet, and it's like they don't get it, but I'm gonna keep going and let it fuel you.
What's the future look like right now? What's the trajectory of Skillcat right now?
Oh, it's great. So yeah, our vision is to, eventually get the millions of people on the platform where we can help people throughout their entire career. Right. So like you can't maybe stay in the same company anymore your whole life, or the same industry. As the industries change with electrification and heat pumps, and all AI is going to incorporate in some way in the trades. We want to help reskill and keep people up to date and experts in everything that's changing and growing. So
Yeah, that's good.
folks can adapt.
Yeah, reskill. That's good. That's a good one, right? There's a lot of guys that go to school and then they don't step foot in a classroom for 15, 20, 25 years. There's guys that don't know the new stuff. They don't know how it works. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to diagnose. I mean, you probably get, I'm thinking about it now. I'm like, even with the new regulation changes coming, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And you shouldn't have to go to a classroom. Like we should make it so easy that it's like part of your life is just like getting these updates, and they're interesting and compelling, maybe entertaining, like, like podcast. So like you find ways to make it more just part of life, right? It shouldn't be like, oh, I have to go to a classroom again and like, how do
Right.
you
You
make
just
it fun?
you're just continuously training.
Yeah.
Well, man, I've really enjoyed this. Before we wind this down, I can't believe it's been an hour. That's crazy.
Yeah.
What do you want to say? You got anything? You got anything in the old noggin there that you've been burning to say?
No, I mean, check out Skillcat. If you can, give us some feedback, what you like, what you don't like. It's all based on feedback. So would love to hear. Yeah, hope to meet all of you in person at some point. So
That's cool, man.
yeah.
Well, I commend you. I thank you for what you're doing for the trades. Man, I'm really hoping that when people start listening to this, like they're word travels pretty fast, and it's and my audience is a little bit different than Jennifer's and from Gil. I don't know. Have you talked to Gil from HVAC Uncensored?
Yeah. Last
Yeah.
week. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You were on Gil's.
Yeah.
Yeah, their audience is really on the a lot of in the field, in the trenches kind of guys. A lot of my audience, I think, is operators, and I do have definitely a lot of sales individuals, and but a lot of operators and a lot of people who are in management and leadership in these organizations. And I can see this as a tool, even complementary for any training that these guys do already. So even if they're bringing guys in and they're doing training, I could even see this as doubling, as saying, okay, guys, we covered this today. Go, also, do this course on Skillcat. I'm guessing there's already companies that are doing this.
Yeah, we work with a lot of companies like that. I think it's just to be an extra resource, right? You can support folks as much as possible. If you have a great training ecosystem, like maybe this can be an additional resource. And if you don't have a great training ecosystem, we can have an apprentice program that like helps you build that out. So, no, thanks. Yeah, this sounds, I think there's just a lot of stuff we can do to help move the industry forward. So
I appreciate you, man. I'm going to take you off here for 1 second.
awesome.
So that's very cool. Guys, I really appreciate everybody here. Coming up on October 10th, I have a guest. So let's go. October 10th, I have the guest of guests. I have Tommy Mello coming on. If you don't know who Tommy Mello is, you've been living under a rock. He's the founder of A1 Garage. He's written books. He's published. I mean, the guy is an in-home service. He's a home service, basically legend at this point in time. He's going to be on. It's going to be like a morning show on the 10th. I also have next week. I have a gentleman by the name of Kevin Hill coming on. Actually, he's on the 15th, and he's from CEO Warrior. And so very exciting. I have some incredible guests coming on. Love you guys, and I will catch you soon.